Uneducated, unfiltered, unhinged. This is the Mangina Dialogues. We at it again with your host Nick Scopes and the Gregolicious. You know how we do, cause you know we keeping it gangster and silly. Unplugged like a full swung titty. Bout get jitty, cause you know we down to the nitty and the gritty. And we make shit sound so damn pretty. Yeah, cause this unhinged comedy. And right now you're in the mix, so get ready, cause we bout to get it poppin'. And we ain't stopping. Uneducated, unfiltered, unhinged. This the Mangina Dialogue.
Hello and welcome to the Mangina Dialogues. I am your host, Nick Scopes.
And I'm the Gregolicious.
And today, our guest, all the way from one state over in New York, the very funny Nathan Macintosh. How are you, my man?
I'm good, guys. How are you doing?
Doing all right. You know, talking to you, staying busy. This is helping kill some time in my day.
Living on the edge.
Yeah, same. This is all we can do. Podcast. Talking. There's nothing else to do, you know? I've watched most things. I've beaten games I didn't even think I would ever play. Here we are.
What's the weirdest thing you've watched in the last month?
The weirdest thing. I don't know. I did just watch. You ever see? This is just what comes to my mind because I just watched it the other day. You ever watch The Abyss?
No.
The Abyss is a movie made by James Cameron, 1989, I think.
Yeah,
Ed Harris.
Yeah.
It's but nobody's seen it. It's like there's so many. First of all, it's like, okay, there's aliens, and then they're like, hey, this guy's trying to steal a warhead, and then we go back to aliens. You go, what the fuck was happening here, Cameron? What the hell happened in this movie? And it seems like I got kind of high and watched it, and I was just kind of watching it, going, wow, there's no way any actor had a good time on this movie because it's like in a submarine and there's water constantly. So it's just like, there's no way anybody had a decent time. You would have been just soaked for whatever, 4 months, 6 months, whatever the shoot was on Abyss. So I'll say Abyss. Long story short, I'll answer The Abyss.
Sounds like a movie we should all go out and watch immediately. It sounds like it was in the James Cameron water film days. He must have rolled that right into Titanic, and then, I mean, what was right after? Then he did all the what's the crazy one with all the blue people?
Avatar.
That shit was dope.
Yeah. Well, you got 4 more of them coming up, back to back to back to back to back.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a 2, 3, and 4 for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if the world ever opens again or if theaters come back, those might be the only movies we ever get to see. Every theater will just be the Avatar showing,
right? And
that's all that'll be in there.
Actually, did you see today that the 2 big movie theater chains, AMC and Regal, are boycotting all of Universal movies because they put out Trolls on direct to consumer on streaming services?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I came across, I didn't click on the link. I saw like AMC mad about Trolls.
Yeah.
I go, okay, well, whatever that means. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's really kind of wild. So they're not going to take any movies from Universal at all for what? Just forever, undetermined amount of time?
I don't know. I think it's a preemptive strike because this has been coming a long time, right? The studios have been talking about doing this VOD simultaneous in the theater for a long time, at least a few years. And when Universal put out Trolls a few months ago or whatever, a few weeks ago, they were pretty transparent that they were using this as a test to see how it went, right? Like how the appetite for the consumer on VOD for like a big blockbuster movie, which that's obviously a Universal tentpole film. So, and then I read last week that Warner Brothers is doing it, I think, with the Scooby-Doo movie, Scoob, that comes out next month, like middle of May. So, yeah, I think it's going to be friggin' wild to see what happens because, clearly there's an appetite for people to watch these big blockbuster movies at home, as opposed to going to the theater and paying $15 for a tub of popcorn.
So would you guys both be in the whole realm of get rid of the theaters and just give us the movies?
I mean, I can't tell you the last time I really went to a theater to watch like I remember like last year, I think it was last year when when The Irishman came out. It was in theaters for a month, and then it went to Netflix. And I was like, why would I go to the theater? And the end of the month,
I'll
right
tell you
here.
why. Here's what I'll tell you. I was one of those people that saw it in theaters. I saw it on Broadway. They were playing it on like an actual theater, like a 1,500 seat Broadway play theater.
That's
And
cool.
the reason you watch it in a theater is so that you watch it. I really think that this is why people hated The Irishman, because nobody is even going to watch an hour's worth of something at their house uninterrupted, let alone 3.5 hours, when you could literally, you're watching a 3.5 hour movie, you could just take your laptop and watch a woman be pounded in the ass. Why would anyone focus on a movie? This is exactly why we should be forced. It is a travesty that Irishman was even on Netflix at the same time it was in the theaters. And I get what they were trying to do, but it was disgraceful. When I heard people talk about Irishman, I'm like, oh, wow, I know what you did. You watched it at home while you're also scrolling through Instagram. And of course you're going to hate a movie when you do that. You need to see that movie completely uninterrupted. And I'd say that about just about any movie, really, other than The Abyss. You can watch The Abyss very interrupted because you feel bad for Ed Harris the whole time.
The whole time.
No,
Listen,
you know what, dude? That is actually a very, very good point. I've watched The Irishman. I had to watch it multiple times to catch stuff that I didn't catch before, right? Because again, you're home, you pause it, you're doing something. But that makes perfect sense, and that's why I think a lot of people were saying like, "Oh, it wasn't that good," and it's like, well, it was actually very
Buddy,
good. It's long.
I'll tell you this: I saw a guy on the train. We're talking New York City subway system. We're talking piss. We're talking people yelling at their kids. We're talking people eating like fish. It's death down there. I saw a guy between 34th Street and 14th Street. He started The Irishman. He started the movie. I saw him watch the first 2 minutes, and then he paused it and got off the train. Now that man should be executed, and he's also the type of person for sure that's going to tell somebody, I tried to watch The Irishman, I couldn't get into it. But nobody's going to push him on that. Nobody's going to go, but how did you try to watch it? Did you try to watch it between 2 train stops, you psychotic monster?
I think you need to put an ad out on wherever that is, like Craigslist missed connections, and be like, I'm looking for the asshole who watched the first 2 minutes. But here's what I think on it. I actually think, for guys like me who never get to the movies, right? I watch most of the stuff that I watch. I mean, I used to travel a lot for work, so I'm constantly on planes. That's where I consume the majority of the things I watch, right? When I'm home, I'm not watching anything for those reasons. Like I can't, I'm going to watch a movie, I want to watch it uninterrupted, right? So when I'm on a plane, for 4 hours, like that's the best thing in the world for me to rip through a couple of movies that I want to see that I didn't get a chance to see in the theater because I don't have the fucking time to go to the theater. So like I think that it's pretty awesome for people that don't or wouldn't normally have the opportunity to go to the movies, and then they just don't see those films, right? But
you did just make the case for uninterrupted viewing.
Oh no, absolutely, I 100%. Like I think this is just a position that these two theaters are making, right? Just to sort of say out loud, like, fuck you guys, because they definitely will impact that business. But,
totally.
Because when the thing about taking kids to the movies, it's not much different than trying to watch a movie at home uninterrupted.
Totally.
Like you take a kid to the movies, like you're at the bathroom, you're going to get more candy, they're not paying attention. It's just something to do to occupy that kid's time. So that's not going to end, right? Parents are still going to take their little kids to see Trolls and Minions and all these friggin' kids movies. And then the people that want to see Star Wars are going to go see Star Wars in the fucking movie theater because that's the best movie experience you could have. Like watching Star Wars at home on your, 50-inch TV is nowhere near what it is watching it on a 50-foot screen in the theater. So I don't think that ever really changes. Those people are still going to go to the theater. It's just all the idiots like me who, would take the opportunity to see a whole bunch more movies that they normally wouldn't see.
I just hope theaters stick around. I'm kind of scared that they just don't come back, which is a possibility. I mean, I grew up obviously with theaters. I love going to the theater. I like going to see movies. There's not a ton that I do go see because, I mean, I'm not an Avengers person, and they've made 78 of those in the last 27 minutes, and also Fast and the Furious is really catching up with that too. I mean, the ninth one coming out, and I mean, so I don't go see a ton of movies, but I do like the option of seeing, like I saw Joker in theaters, Irishman in theaters. I can't remember, like, you know, a few other things, like movies that I just want to see. I'd much rather watch them in the theater than not. I just hope that's a thing that doesn't completely go away.
Yeah, I don't think it will. I hope it doesn't. My family actually had an independent movie theater in our family.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, we don't anymore. They had to close it years ago because it couldn't stay in business. But, you know, I used to love going there and watching movies. You know, they were usually second run. They never got the blockbuster, but they would get Star Wars 3 months after Star Wars is in the movie theater. You know, it was awesome. Like, and it was before digital, so they had, you know, you still projected. It was pretty awesome.
It's so cool.
You know, I don't think that ever goes away. I think it certainly becomes harder. But all that shit's cyclical, I think. Yeah. You know. Anyway, how are you keeping busy during this shit? And you cannot say watching a lot of movies.
No, I was going to say one way is telling people how stupid they were for not liking The Irishman. Irishman's great. You know, the one, and I'll get off The Irishman here real quick. The one thing I heard most people say was that, like, the de-aging, they go, oh, it looks so unrealistic. And it's like, you're the same person that will watch Captain America talk to nothing on a screen for 3 hours. How dare you have the audacity to be like, oh, but Groot is cool? But anyways, whatever. I'm doing my podcast as well, Positive Anger. I've been doing that. I've trying to write some stuff, but that's kind of not stand-up. Stand-up's kind of tough to write right now because you're like, well, where's this going to go? What am I doing with this?
Yeah.
Really getting to know my girlfriend. I mean, you know, you're quarantined with a human being. You really get to the ins and outs of this person.
Still like her or what?
I do, yeah. I mean, not every day, but yeah.
I think the better question is, does she still like you? Like we know you still like her, but does she still like you?
Quarantine, you know how hard quarantine would be with somebody that you didn't like? You know what I mean? You can't. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, there's definitely people that are quarantined with people they can't stand. And I mean, I can't even imagine. It must be terrible because quarantine by yourself, I think, would also be tough. But quarantine is tough regardless. But being with somebody that you don't even like must be the toughest version of the quarantine.
It's funny. We've talked to a bunch of people, you know, the last 3 weeks, and a whole bunch of people have like gone home to their parents. Right, you know, like 30-year-old, 35-year-old people running home and now living in a house with their parents that they haven't done for ages. I think that's kind of friggin' funny. We talked to Carmen Lynch last week, and she said she went upstate to New York, to Connecticut, to her. I forgot if it was her boyfriend's house or whatever, but she's in a house with 7 family members.
Yikes.
Right. And she said she didn't anticipate staying this long. So I'm like, when is that turning into psychoticism?
Totally. I mean, it's like Chris, when you go home for a vacation, I mean, I think we can all kind of, it's good for like 4 days.
Yeah.
And if you had to do that for 2 months, 3 months, me and my girlfriend, no joke, have stood in our kitchen sometimes and we go, God, we're so happy that we stayed here. We'll just say to each other, like, imagine if we were in somebody else's house. I can't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just can't even, especially for this long, I can't even imagine.
Right. Where in the city are you guys?
Queens.
Okay. So it's not like Midtown. You guys can walk out and a bunch of stuff to do.
Yeah, we can walk out.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, you still got to dodge. Like, there's just trucks, you know, refrigeration trucks full of bodies out there, but you just walk around those and you get into the store. No, it's kind of it's weird because obviously New York is the worst for this, as they say. But I mean, I don't work in the hospital, and I'm thankfully not in the hospital, so the neighborhood is just kind of quiet. You know, I get calls from back home. People are like, "Oh my God, you got to get home! There's this and this and this," and I'm like, "Man, if you could see what I am seeing, it's pretty chill." You know, just in my apartment. We got a grocery store 2 blocks away that I'll go to, once a week or every 2 weeks or something. And I mean, pretty casual right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's going on there?
That's wild. Let's I want to talk about your podcast a little bit. So
Okay.
where did the name come from? I like it a lot.
Thanks, man. It came from there was a man. Do you guys know John Fatigate? He lives in Connecticut. Either way, he started Stand Up New York Labs years ago, and he was like, "You should do a podcast." Blah blah. And I did one, and I was like, "Man, basically all I do with like stand up and everything, and I was like, I yell about things that make me angry, but like in kind of a fun way." And he was like, "Oh, it's like positive anger." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's my whole life."
Yeah.
And I mean, that's kind of just where it came from.
And now were you originally doing it by yourself, and now you're doing it with a co-host?
No, I always had guests, and now because I'm sort of locked in, and my girlfriend has done it before, she's sort of on every week right now. So it's basically like having a co-host. I've kind of said that this is what season 6 is. It's me and her figuring our lives out. I could do the Zoom thing, but I don't know. There's something about the look of it that is kind of off-putting to me,
Yeah.
So I've just been doing it with her, and it's been a good time. We've been screaming at each other, and it's been fun.
Therapeutic.
Yeah, there was one day we got into a fight right before we did it, which didn't end up, it was kind of weird. And then there was another we got into a fight right after. She didn't like something I said, and then what people don't see is, hey, yeah, fun podcast, and then an hour and a half argument about some stupid thing that I would have said about whatever a shirt of hers on the on the podcast. Because I don't know about you guys, eventually you kind of get to a point where you're like, well, I don't know when this is going to end, so I'll just say real things.
Yeah.
So I'll be like, look, these pants you have, I can't stand them. They make you look like a babysitter. I hate these pants. You got to get rid of these pants. And then that just becomes like an actual argument, know?
Did you ever listen to Rich Voss's with Bonnie, his wife?
No, but I've listened to them personally, like at a table, and it's great. Their dynamic is great.
Yeah, it must be the same thing. It's very funny. Like it literally. I mean, their podcast is that's all it seems like. It's just someone threw a mic down with them sitting around a table and her basically beating the shit out of him verbally, right? It's hysterical. I totally recommend it.
They're both great. Yeah, they're both so funny.
Yeah. So when what was the last show you did before all of this?
The last show I did was at the Cellar. March 15th, I think.
Right.
The Sunday before the Monday shut off, and it was weird because I was telling people, okay, I don't know if you guys have one of these people in your family. My brother's like a real, not doomsday guy, but kind of like a doomsday guy. So January, he's been like, hey, here's what's going to happen. Coronavirus is going to come, shut it all off, maybe full-on global economic collapse. I'm like, all right, man, cool. I don't know what you want me to necessarily do with this, but anyway, so he said it to me enough that I was kind of mentally prepared for what was going to happen. So I remember end of February, beginning of March, I'd go into the Cellar and people were like, I wonder what's going to happen. And I'd be like, well, here's what I think is going to happen. I really think we're going to shut the whole city down. They were like, you can't shut New York down. I'm like, why? They've shut countries down. China shut down 7 cities. Each one of those cities, I'm assuming, has more people in it than New York.
Yeah.
But people in New York are like, we can't. We got Jeter, for God's sake. The Yankees are cool. And you go, all right, whatever. So that night, I remember telling the crowd, it was about, because they had to adhere to the laws at that point, which were like, 50% capacity.
Yep.
And it was 10 o'clock on a Sunday. There was probably 30, 40 people in there. And I just felt a weird vibe of like, wow, man, I don't even know if this could be my last time on stage for I don't know how long. So I kind of got on, did kind of one joke, and then was just like, guys, this is pretty serious. I don't know what we're all doing in here. I mean, life's kind of over as we know it. And then sort of bombed for 8 minutes because people people weren't in the same sort of the sky is falling place that I was, and did this show and left, and I was like, wow, I don't know when I'll kind of be back here. And then the very next day they were like, yeah, that's done, just shutting that off. So it wasn't as good. My last show was not a great experience. I hope I get to at least do one more show where I can be like, oh, I left on a good note.
Yeah, right.
What about you guys? When was the last time you got to perform?
Last time I performed was Friday the 13th. It was March 13th.
Oh, yeah.
We had a show, and that was the last set I did. And then Monday, I remember my job shut down, and I was like, all right, well, probably be like out for like a month. And here we are, 6 weeks later. That looks like maybe June. I don't know what's gonna happen, man. I have no idea.
Yeah, it sucks because that show, I didn't even go to that one because I was already in full on, like, I don't want to say freak out mode, but we had shut, like, I have a company in the city. We have 60 employees, and we basically that day we're like, no, we're shutting down. We'll see you when we see you. So I had already mentally been like spent with the whole thing. So I was like, I'm not coming to this show. Yeah. And we debated up until like a couple hours before to even do it because it was oversold, right? We sold the place out by like a bunch, right? So I was like, there's a lot of people coming. I'm going to stay away. We haven't heard anyone from that night got sick, so it also happens to be one of the towns out here in Connecticut that I think has the least amount of cases, like in that section of Connecticut. So yeah, but that was the last one, Friday the 13th, ironically.
Yeah, that
so
was the
weird.
last one.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
What do you guys think in terms of, you think it's coming back in the next little while or what?
Well, Greg kind of could speak to this. He was just telling me something, but.
Yeah, I thought up until a few days ago that by sometime mid-June, stuff would, I think, start to open back up, and not obviously full capacity, but maybe 25%, then 50%, for a month or so. But then I was listening pretty closely to the governor of Connecticut because they're starting to set their plans as New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, they're all on the same path. So they had a press conference the other day, maybe yesterday, a couple days ago, about what their plans are. And he basically said it's the opposite of what Georgia's plan is, where Georgia opened up bars and salons and gyms and stuff. He's like, in Connecticut and, the metro area, that's the last thing we're going to open up before big events like concerts and trade shows and things like that. So to me, that sounds more like July, August than it does June.
Yes.
Right. But then today, I don't know how closely you watch the news. One of the big medical pharmaceutical companies is getting approval today in an emergency FDA thing to approve their coronavirus therapeutic that is that's supposed to cut down the severity within like 50%, sort of like Theraflu. So if you get the flu and you take Theraflu, it makes your symptoms less, like they say 50%. Better than it would have been, and it's kind of the same thing. So, maybe that sort of changes stuff a little bit, but they still only projected they'll have 1 million doses of that available until through the end of the year. So it's certainly not something that can protect an entire United States, but it's enough that for the people that wind up in the hospital, that it cuts down the death rate by half, they think. Or not even just the death rate, but people getting very ill.
Well, I mean, if they can't get that to everybody, the silver lining there is that I'd say just about every American owns bleach. Just drink bleach.
Yeah.
That's apparently one of the that helps.
Apparently, if you believe what you read or hear come out of someone's mouth, actually.
Yeah, even bleach is like, don't drink us, and people are like, you don't know anything, bleach. I know you make it, but you don't drink it. Let me try it.
Yeah, it's.
I don't know. Yeah, July, August would be cool. I don't know. I mean, we kind of are in terms of like stand up and like live performance stuff, restaurant stuff, bar stuff. It does seem it will be the last things to kind of come back because of how tightly people are put together in those places,
Well, the governor of California said the other day that he's not even considering allowing big, sporting events or concerts or stuff like that until 2021. Now that I'm guessing that's just a little politicking as opposed to like reality. And every day this is changing, because then this company Oxford announced yesterday that they think they're going to have their shot, preventative, available by September in small quantities again, but it's still something. And the whole thing with this virus has been protecting the most vulnerable people, right? The elderly people that are underlying conditions. So, if that all happens, then I think stuff can change pretty rapidly. But what the fuck do I know? I'm just a silly podcast host that has a dumb rap song as a theme.
I mean, yeah, I hear you. I'm in the same boat, man. I know nothing. I know that, like, what's it called? Live Nation is apparently not rescheduling anything that they have until 2021.
Yeah.
So like big concerts, theater tours with comedians, none of that stuff at all is going to be rescheduled until 2021.
Right. I mean,
so that could mean for sporting events as well.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But
you keep hearing about football season and baseball playing without, like, I mean, it's kind of crazy. I think it all comes to a head around the football season, because that's such a big deal. And it's not just a big deal for the people into sports. It's just, I mean, it's the biggest of all sports. It's the biggest moneymaker of all sports. Can you imagine not having a Super Bowl, just the financial impact of that?
Yeah.
So
I
wonder what they'll do. I mean, did you guys see WrestleMania happen with no crowd?
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yep.
It was terrible.
I watched it. It was it was interesting.
I've gone to the last 4 WrestleManias. And
really,
yeah, I'm not a big. I work with WWE, so I'm not going for my own pleasure. It's like my own personal hell going to WrestleMania. But like watching it and knowing what the in-person experience is, and then forget the in-person experience, just what it looks like on TV with thousands of people and this big elaborate blow-ups and fireworks, and then seeing him do it in a really relatively lame way was really like just kind of depressing.
Yeah, I've been to a WrestleMania as well, and I watched it solely to be like, how are they going to do this? Because there is a way to make it entertaining without the crowd. You could do it, but as I was watching, I was like, wow, they really just tried to pretend like there was a crowd here, and it came off
weird.
Yeah, and it did kind of make you feel bad. It didn't make you forget anything. It didn't make you go, oh wow, I'm escaping reality for a second. It was very much like, no, this is reality now, and be scared.
Yeah, it was.
Best is when the wrestlers were just shit talking and there's no one there.
No one there.
That's the thing. You're like, why not look at the camera and talk to the camera? But they decided, let's pretend there's 80,000 people here, and it looked crazy.
Yeah. I mean, at least they did it. They could have canceled it. It's really the only sporting event sports entertainment event that has been able to go off,
Yeah, true. And there was some stuff I liked about it. I just thought, like, I don't know. Well, whatever. I mean, it's such a new thing for everybody to try to figure out that, and that's their biggest event of the year. So, I mean, I guess there was only so much they were going to be able to really do or be able to do, but it was definitely weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see. It's going to be an interesting next 6 months. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the one thing whenever they let us back into bars or clubs, whatever, and do events like that, like, do you think people are gonna? We've been asking everyone this. Do you think people are willing to jump right in and be like, "Yes, get me out of the house. I need to go to a live event, or I need to go to a comedy show or a concert or whatever"? Or do you think people are going to be very cautious?
I mean, I don't. I'm not trying to attack anybody here when I say this, and I mean that. This has nothing to say other than that. I think the only people that will jump right back into it are Trump supporters. I really think they're the only people that will just go, yeah, screw it. This whole thing was not real anyway, and I'm going out. I think other people will not be, because I've kind of been asking people that question too, and it's like, we've kind of been doing this long enough, and we don't know how much longer we will be doing it, that it sort of just becomes routine and a way of life, and people do get scared. So I think people that are scared will continue to kind of be that way for a little bit until until they sort of see that other people are fine, or that going into a bar is not going to be the end of your life. But yeah, I don't know what you guys think, but as far as if they just turned it right back on today, I don't know that people just run right out there. I mean, what do you guys think?
I think it depends on what it is, right? Because I certainly think, if you turned it on today and said, okay, go, you can go to events now, that it's going to take a bit of a build to where people are totally comfortable going to different things, right? But, I go out enough, now, cautiously, right? And everywhere you go, people are very respectful of other people's space. And there's a decent amount of people around, right? So granted, those are food stores, Target, Walmart, Home Depot, kind of places you have to go, right? If you need to do something, eat, you go to the grocery store, you got to go. Everyone's not ordering Peapod, or most people can't afford to order every single meal, delivery, curbside pickup. So you have no choice. You got to go to the stores, and there's enough people in these places that it's encouraging to see that not everyone is shut in. I have a 79-year-old mother. Am I going to advise her to go see the Rolling Stones? No, of course not. But the good thing I think about comedy, music, not so much sports, but comedy and music, is that the audiences are typically much younger than other things, like especially the theater. Like the theater is probably screwed for, I would think, a long time, because those audiences are packed into seats that are already too small for the average person to sit into. And the clientele is usually much older, right, that goes to Broadway shows. But to comedy clubs, it's probably the majority of people are 30 and younger. Overwhelmingly, it's probably that age demo who are the safest, theoretically, in this type of
technically
situation,
speaking,
right. So they're the least at risk. They're the most risk takers, who have the biggest I don't give a shit, like I'm not worried about it, right? So I think for that, I'm not that negative on people going out to comedy clubs and music venues, if that would even be possible. Comedy clubs much easier to separate crowd than going to an open floor concert. So, and I think the venues are all going to be very conscious of that, of course. So, I do have a more positive outlook on that than stuff like, sports and just going and congregating.
Yeah, the smaller things that are able to be controlled. I mean, I hope that's true. It is funny when you talk to, like, I'm coming at it from the other side in terms of like just being a comedian, but when you talk to regular people, and I only say that in terms of people that don't do comedy, a lot of people do want to get out. A lot of people, I mean, for a lot of people, this got to be so weird in terms of like comedian. My day is kind of what I want it to be, and then I kind of go out at night. A lot of people, are now stuck home when they're so used to being somewhere for a certain amount of time during the day, and then going out at night to get away from that place that they were for a certain amount of time during the day. So, yeah, man, I mean, you could very well be right that a lot of people are like, I don't care if they say it's fine, I'm going right now. There could definitely be a lot of people that do that. And I mean, God, that would be good. So hopefully that is the way that it goes.
I think the problem in New York City is going to be just absolute lack of tourism.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I don't know how long, I heard someone on CNBC or something yesterday say that they don't expect New York City to get back to normal for 5 years as far as tourism goes. I think that that's sort of doomsday speak, right? Because, once a therapeutic is readily available, and once immunization is readily available, there's not going to be any reason to not go out. That's not going to take 5 years. The second everyone can go to the doctor, get a flu shot that prevents the flu and COVID-19 and whatever else, then boom, you're in business, right? You're not going to scare people away from doing normal things they did 3 months ago, or however long it might be. And same thing with therapeutics. So 5 years, I think, is a little bit of insanity. A year or two, I mean, I definitely see that being the case, because it's going to take that long really to get tons of drugs available for people to prevent it or help get over it.
Yeah, and also New York clearly has been a place that people have been like, this is the worst, not only in America, but the world.
The world, yeah.
So, yeah, people are going to be like, I'm not going there. Yeah. I mean, and that sucks because obviously comedy relies a lot on tourism, you know, in terms of when people come to New York, a lot of people just think comedy. So even people that don't speak English are like, I got to go to a comedy show. And then they sit there and they don't, you know, they just look at it, but they are in New York. So this is one of the things you do.
Yeah. I mean, I think the one thing that could change all that is if the airlines, and I think they're going to have no choice but to do it, is to just make shit so incredibly cheap just to get people, just to entice people to come in. And, you know, I think there's enough people worldwide who will see that and be like, holy shit, I can go to New York for $400 when it used to cost $1,000 and stay in a hotel that was $500 a night. Now I can stay there for $100 a night. There's going to be enough people, I think, people who will say, fuck it, I'm going to do it. You know? I
mean, that makes sense. There's those, what do they call them? Extreme tours.
Yeah.
You know, people go to Chernobyl, and obviously it's not, you know, what it was in the 80s, but I mean, people do that. People go on weird trips that could very well be disastrous for you. This one would be a little bit less than that, but yeah, you're probably right on that, man. If they made a flight to New York cheap enough, people would do it. People would fly to the middle of a volcano if it meant that it saved them money.
Yeah, I mean, shit. Nick went to Portland last year for a week.
All the way.
All the
way. It was interesting. Interesting place.
Yeah.
So Nathan, what do you see coming up for you next? I mean, I know it's hard to kind of predict the future with, you know, no shows coming up, but you know, do you have plans to do? I know you had a half hour come out and you had a few comedy albums. You working on anything right now?
Well, before this, I was trying to put together another like album thing to tape and put out. But if this keeps going, I mean, drive a truck, you know, Amazon delivery. Amazon seems like the only thing that'll fully never die. So
true.
You know what I mean? They're out there. How crazy is it that one day you're driving a Amazon truck and you're like, hey, you know, I'm it's a job. I'm not a CEO of a thing, but you know, I got a job. And the next day it's like you're the most in-demand human being alive. You're up there with Doctor, for God's sake.
Pretty much. It is wild.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's just crazy. You go into Walmart, any of these stores that are open now, and CVS and all the drugstores and food stores, it's like they can't hire people fast enough.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's like they're the front line. You know, who would have thought the person cashing you out at Stop and Shop or fucking Christie's is like a front line worker, you know?
Yeah.
It's wild.
They should be wearing suits.
Yeah.
We should put them in suits from now on. Make them look like a CEO that they basically are. You know, stay to the top of the top, well dressed. But I mean, you know, I'm still trying to work on this thing, and hopefully when things do come back around, you know, still try to record and all that kind of stuff. Because I think I'll be able to do most of the things post-corona and then just sort of build around them. Because that's the other thing, right? You look at some stuff and you're like, oh man, well, things are just going to be completely different. So certain stuff is just going to be gone now in terms of material-wise. It just won't make any sense past this giant thing we've all been living through, you know?
Yeah, I do know.
You said it with such pain. You're like, everything I've ever said relied on no coronavirus.
You should have seen his face. It was very sad.
I wanted to cry.
But you know, I had a dumb joke I was going to put on Instagram that I had for a while, and whatever. I was going to take it from Twitter and put it on Instagram just to have like stuff to post. And basically that, like, if you eat fast food in a parking lot, you're no different than a seagull. Like, you just have music and they don't. But then I'm like, now you go, but you have to eat it in the parking lot because you can't eat it in the restaurant. You're not allowed to eat it in the, you know, seagull. Well, that's done. And I mean, that's a small, stupid thing, but I think a lot of comedians will have many of those small little things where you go, oh, that doesn't even make sense anymore.
Yeah. What do you think, you know, about what is definitely going to happen is just an onslaught of hacky quarantine jokes. Like for someone like yourself who is, been on so many late night shows and obviously very polished and awesome, right? Like, I can only imagine how that feels inside when you're going to go to clubs and you're going to do spots and you're going to be on, and all these dudes are going to be out who are like nowhere near your level, and they're going to start doing the worst hacky, like, coronavirus quarantine jokes. Like, are you dreading that?
No, because I'm going to do them first.
Right,
Once you go through all this, you go, why am I working hard? When the whole world can just shut off, I'll just do cheesy quarantine jokes. To be serious with you, no, I don't even think of that at all, because there's enough stuff that people beat to death regardless.
Yeah.
That it's too hard for me, and I think there's a lot of comedians that would do it, but at a certain point in time, you can't get mad at everything, you know, like. So if there are a lot of people that are doing quarantine jokes, cool, man. The audience will sort of dictate whether or not they. I'll say this: I think if it does come back, or when it does come back, I think people will be able to deal with about 2 weeks worth of quarantine corona stuff, and then crowds will be like, "We get it, stop it," you know, because we all did it. We were all in it. There's not too much you're going to be bringing to us that isn't that we don't already know or have heard.
Yeah.
And also, we don't want to think about this again. You know, I had
100%.
to bury my wife in a Honda Civic and throw the whole thing in the ocean so that my kids didn't get sick. Like, I don't want to talk about this thing again.
Right.
I lost my job. My stocks went to hell. Like, I'm done. So, I kind of think that people in general will be like, let's just forget about it. To some degree.
No, I agree with you. I'm always just curious, when something like that happens, what the reaction is going to be from, everybody on the spectrum of, top to bottom, whatever it is. So I totally get what you're saying and agree.
I just kind of like, there's so many things you can get mad at in stand up. It's like, I don't want to fight all these fights. Yeah. I can't.
I just lived in my apartment. I couldn't go anywhere with my girlfriend for 6 weeks.
And it's funny because I watched The Abyss, but I was going to watch that by myself. But then I said to her, I go, I'm going to watch a movie tonight. And she goes, what movie? And I go, The Abyss. She goes, who's in that? And I was like, oh, here we go. I knew as soon as she said, who's in that? I can't watch this by myself now. Now I have to watch it with her.
Yeah, you're in it.
Yeah, so, it is what it is. And it's so funny because if she was like, I'm going to watch a movie by myself, I'd be like, great. Knock yourself out. Watch 9 in a row by yourself. You're not going to hurt me.
It's true.
I love it. Well, Nathan, dude, today that was so fun. Thanks for talking to us today, taking the time out of your very busy day watching The Abyss and other horrible movies, apparently, to talk to us. But no, in all seriousness, this is really fun, man. And hopefully once all this bullshit's over, we could do it again in person.
I had a lot of fun too, and I appreciate you guys having me. And hopefully, whenever this gets figured out or whatever, I'll be able to come to Connecticut and do the room. I was really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it was going to be awesome. So as soon as we get some word what the hell we can do, it's top of our list to get you back some dates. So
I greatly appreciate you guys. Thanks so much. It's been so fun.
All right, man. Talk to you soon.
Later.
Take care.